Thank you all so much for being here today. So we're going to be discussing the theme, cracking the code, improving science and technology for a gender equal future. So who want to say a gender equal future? Okay, so just want to give welcome to our Executive Director of the Scientific Research Council, Dr. Shara Watson. We also have with us our guest speaker for this morning, Ms. Danielle Mullings, and special welcome to all our other panelists and to all of you wonderful people who are here with us today, who decided to join us today. We are very thankful that you are here. We appreciate your sacrifice, and we look forward to your contribution and your participation today. So I'm going to invite our Executive Director, Dr. Shara Watson. She's a woman in science. She's the Executive Director of the Scientific Research Council. She's a formulation chemist, and she formulates all sorts of lovely things for the skin, hair, and nails. All right? So Dr. Watson, please come and give us your welcome.
All right, so good morning, everyone, especially to those joining us online. But wherever you are in the virtual world, thank you for joining us. And of course, to those of you who journeyed from whether near or far to be in person with us here at the Gulfview Hotel in cool Mandeville, thank you for being here. A special welcome to our specially invited guests. I see your panelists all lined up and looking very feminine and beautiful this morning. And to our special guest speaker, our keynote presenter, Ms. Mullings, happy to see you here. It is an honor to be here with you this morning and to welcome you to SRC's 7th staging of our Conversations in Science series. In January, we were focusing on our young men, and of course, now we're here focusing on our women. So this year's staging, or this particular staging, is in regard to our celebration of International Women's Day. And the title or the theme for today's staging is Cracking the Code, Improving Science and Technology for Gender Equality. All right? So for our theme, it was really prudent for us to select a theme that was reflective of the overarching theme of International Women's Day, which is being celebrated on the world stage under their theme, which is Digital, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. The theme highlights the role of innovative technology in promoting gender equality and meeting the health and developmental needs, especially for women and girls. So that is why we are looking at cracking the code. How do we improve science and technology for a gender equal future? And this is extremely important. So while we have more female participation in the sciences at the academic level or the tertiary level, you're not seeing more females transitioning to whether postgrad or into science careers. We end up going into other fields for different reasons. So you still end up having that great disparity. You still have only 30% of women occupying those STEM-related careers or having high-level STEM position in STEM companies globally. And we want to change that. So it is very important that we continue to focus on the participation of women and girls in science. It's not that we're trying to marginalize our young men. We're definitely not. We're just trying to balance things out. And if you know me, I'm a chemist and I believe in balance. So that is what we're trying to do. Balance the scale a little bit, because we know when we have the female perspective, there's a whole different perspective which consider everything, don't it? Our brains are wired differently, so we take more things into consideration. And that is why it's very important that we have girls and women participating in science and technology, because we know this is what leads to our future. You cannot develop without science and technology. So with this in mind, we continue to work towards reducing the disparity that currently exists within the scientific and technological fields and improving female participation in science and technology in Jamaica, but more specifically in those traditional fields that are male-dominated. So we want to see more female engineers. We want to see more female physicists. We want to see more female technicians. We want to see more females everywhere, don't it? All right. So today we hope to instigate a drive and a fire within all of you, including our young men that are here. You need to support your female counterparts, right? And to enable you to crack the code as role models that will be presenting to you today, that went ahead of you, have done before, and that you may be motivated to access what was once considered impossible, and for you to create and chart your own path to the future that you want. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I officially open this seventh staging of SRC's Conversations in Science. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Watson. And look, I must say a very special welcome to those who are joining us online. Big up yourselves. Thank you so much for listening with us today. And at this point in time, I'm going to invite Miss Cavell Hilton. She is the coordinator for our Science, Technology, and Education unit here at the SRC. She is the lady who coordinates all of these events. So please give her a big welcome, a big round of applause. All right. So good morning. I first want to say good morning to our distinguished guest, the Executive Director, Dr. Shara Watson. And of course, she is a woman in science. And it's International Women's Day. And I just want to give her a special big up for a woman, you know, who is doing it all. Mother, wife, scientist, leader, businesswoman, you name it. So ladies, ensure that you get a chance to speak to Dr. Watson, network with her, find out how she is able to do what? Crack the code. So make sure you get that done today. All right, I also want to say a special welcome to our guest speaker, Miss Danielle Mullins. Ladies and gentlemen, teachers and students, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you to the 7th staging of the SRC Conversations in Science series. I'm very glad to acknowledge also our panelists, Miss Tora Simpson, Miss Kerry-Ann C. Walker, Miss Prudence Hall, Mrs. Chantal Golden-Wiles. I also want to welcome our exhibitors, NCU, the Northern Caribbean University. I see VTDI here. Hey. And of course, let me say Cedar Grove, the Cedar Grove Academy. Welcome. And the Bishop Gibson High School. York Castle High School. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. All right, so happy International Women's Day. On this day and every day, we happily recognize the achievements and contributions of women in Jamaica and across the world, while committing to and strive for the equality they all deserve. As women, we can crack the code and improve science and technology for a gender equal future. It is our duty to balance the equation and ensure that more women have a seat at the table in science and technology. Today, be prepared to be wowed by our guest speaker, Danielle Mullins, our expert panelist. What are we going to do today? Right, so we're going to crack the code. So you're going to have our expert panelist or guest speaker. We have our exhibits upstairs, so you can check that out. And that is all to make sure that at the end of today, you leave feeling what? Inspired, right? That you can accomplish anything. All right, so I want to thank you again. And once more, I want to say, Happy International Women's Day. All right. Thank you very much, Miss Hilton. And at this point in time, you've been hearing about her. So I'm going to give a formal introduction now to Miss Danielle Mullins, our guest speaker. So Miss Mullins is a multifaceted individual with a strong passion for technology, leadership, and the arts. She is dedicated to using her expertise to improve society and aspires to become a world leader in technological representation for the Caribbean and Latin America. Daniel has served as Regional Youth Champion for GH Futures 2030 and as the Impact and Partnerships Officer for Transform Health. She has been recognized for her achievements, including being named a Young Expert in Tech for Health, being selected as a UWI Open Scholar, and serving on the UNICEF Jamaica Youth Council. Daniel is deeply invested in media and communications, having hosted the popular TV series Gen Z and produced documentaries that aim to preserve cultural identity. She has taken an active role in advocacy for young people, serving on various councils and committees both locally and internationally to voice the needs and concerns of her peers in the areas of digital transformation, education, and national issues. Ladies and gentlemen, all please welcome Miss Danielle Mullings. Big round of applause.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with you. What was the earliest dream you had? To become a nurse? All right, cool. What was yours? Become a midwife? Love that. Pilot? Oh, I love that. I have a friend actually studying to be a pilot right now. Birthday girl? A doctor? All right, and I saw one more person had their hand up. A surgeon? All right, we're going to go to York Castle High. What are some of your earliest dreams? Forensic scientist. A veterinarian. All right, we love that. Anybody here from Bishop Gibson? A lawyer. Do you still want to be a lawyer? What do you want to be now? All right, toxicologist. Surgeon? A teacher? A doctor. All right, so a lot of medical fields here. A pharmacist. We love to see it. Okay. So we have a wide variety of fields here. The first thing I told my parents was that I wanted to be a cashier. And they were quite distraught. Because they were like, Daniel, you don't have no higher ambition. You want to be a cashier, you can start there. And I used to say, but Mom, what if I'm going to own 5 or 10 supermarkets? And then some days I just go in around the cash register. But for some reason, I was very enthralled by it. I love to see them push the button and the money come out. And I was just like, yes. But after that, I actually fell in love with science and technology. And so the first science-related field that I wanted to be in was marine biology. And I was convinced that I would be a marine biologist. I also fell in love with just like photography. And so I got this little camera. I would go around and document everything. So if you went to Campion during the years that I was there, I probably have a picture of every single person on campus. I went to every event and I was taking photos. So for me, I was between these two fields of media and also science. And I remember a lot of people kept telling me, you have to choose. You can't be both. There's no way that you can go into both the arts and into science and technology. And I just felt very confined by that type of notion. And I said, but no, I like the two of them. I want to see where we can go with it. So the first idea I think that we need in terms of creating this gender equal future is that we must introduce STEM subjects to young girls from early, even as early childhood, in my opinion. Because for me, some of my earliest memories would be remembering we had this computer class, and we started off by, they would have buzzers, and you have to go and select the right buzzer, and I would get so excited each time it was my turn to go and select the correct answer. And I think that that's really where it starts when you're a child. So many of you have, shared a wide range of different ideas and jobs that you'd like to be in the future that you thought of when you were little. And that's where all the idea generation starts. That's how you get young people interested in science and technology. I also wanted to expand the scope. STEM is more than you think. So I remember one person over here said that their earliest childhood dream was to be a business lawyer, for example, right? Technology is integrated into almost everything that we do, applying the scientific method and that type of rigor to how you make decisions. That can apply to almost any field that you're in. So when we say that we want more, young women in STEM, it doesn't have to be that you're in a lab. You can be in a lab. Nothing is wrong with that. But there are also many different ways to look at how that is applied to every single field that you could potentially be in. So science and technology is not just being a coder or being a lab technician, or being it can look any way that you might want it to. You could be an entrepreneur who owns their own tech company, or maybe you figured out a new product that is going to help save the world, I don't know, or help cure diabetes. Maybe you figured out something like that, and your idea is to run the business. Nothing is wrong with that. I know some marketers for tech companies. They love marketing and media, but they've mixed that into technology. By the way, my background is tech, so I may mention it a lot during the presentation overall. Or maybe you want to be a policymaker, and maybe the policies you're creating are science related. And every government going forward is going to have a strong science component to their overall delivery. So anything that you want to do can be integrated into science and technology overall. So STEM jobs may take many different forms. Right now, I'm quite interested in how technology and healthcare are integrated. And that's something I got introduced to in my first year of university by this Global Youth Tech Council that I saw. At first, I saw the application. My friend sent it to me. And I remember responding to her and saying, but I can't apply for this. I'm just a little person from Jamaica here. They're not going to accept me for that. But I decided to anyway. Went ahead, put my best foot forward. I remember the day I had the interview, it was raining like crazy, and I'm running trying to find somewhere to do the interview. And a lecturer actually stopped and gave me her office to do the interview in. Got selected, and to be honest with you, that one council changed my thinking and orientation completely. Because after that, I was now saying, wow, technology can be linked into so many different fields. I know I've gotten hooked on technology and healthcare, and that's ultimately the field that I would like to go into. So it's called digital health. I currently work with Transform Health, and they're based in Switzerland. So I work remotely here from Jamaica, and I log on and do meetings online. I handle the partnerships for the organization. So again, coming back to that whole idea of it doesn't have to be directly tech related. So you don't need to be coding every day or creating lab experiments every day, etc. You could be handling the partnership side of the company, right? But all of it is coming together to advocate for better STEM usage within the place. Secondly, I have project management. A lot of my friends after graduating have actually gone into project management for different companies and organizations. So in order to get a new, let's say you've developed a new innovation that is going to help with curing cancer, for example, right? You're going to need somebody who is project managing different teams in order to see that to fruition. So that could be an area you're looking at, simply project management. And it may sound very simplistic at first, but many different organizations actually need that to bring anything to real life. Teaching. Maybe you want to be a STEM teacher. Maybe you want to teach science. In Jamaica, we actually have a shortage of teachers within the STEM industry. And so there are different projects and programs that are starting. In fact, at the university, there's one now called the Boost program. And after students graduate from the Faculty of Science and Technology, you can apply for it. And each year, your salary is supposed to be inclusive of paying back at least 1 year of university. So if you were to do it for 3 years and the program is 3 years, at the end of the 3 years, you'd be able to pay back for your entire tuition, right? So there are different programs like that that are coming up to include and ensure that we're getting more STEM teachers, because that's really where it starts at that, high school and primary level. So those are some different ideas there. The last one I have is marketing, and I mentioned that earlier. Marketing is crucial to every single business, any product that you put out there. Sometimes, as STEM persons, we can look down on people who do humanities or arts, but really and truly, everybody is needed. Everybody is going to come together. Being a STEM student doesn't mean you're better or you're less than anybody else. You're just as valuable. You have a different role and everyone else will also have a different role. All right. And expanding on this, studying STEM teaches us many, many different skills that you may not even realize. So for example, last year I served as the guild president for the University of the West Indies. Now, UWI has about anywhere between 15,000 to 18,000 students. And when you're the guild president, managing all 18,000 students, that can be quite challenging and, difficult. You're basically going to be the liaison between the student body and the administration. And UWI is also a regional campus. So in addition to serving at the campus level, we also serve at the regional level. And there are meetings that will have all the education ministers from across the Caribbean there, all the different principals, etc., etc. So because of my science background, I took a very, science approach to leading the UMona Guild. For example, anytime we had any, disputes going on across the campus or so on, the first thing I would do is say, all right, well, we need to have a data-driven approach. So I'm going to do a survey. So I literally would be in the principal's office showing some big charts and saying, sir, 50% of the students think XYZ. And because of that, I think the way we should go is to do XYZ, right? And then I might even disaggregate the data and say, well, based off the first years are leading towards this. And the second years are thinking something else, right? And that's the disparity that we may be having there. So the overall idea is when I'm learning within my class in technology or software engineering, I'm not only learning skills for tech, I'm also learning skills that can help me in leadership or that can help me in how I relate to the student body, So I think the idea of expanding your concept of how you view STEM teaching is going to be really important. So it's not just learning skills that I'm going to use within the class. How can I apply this to my broader life, right? We also learn a lot about project management. How do you, lead a team? How do you bring people together? I used all of that into being guild president and creating these different advocacy pieces. In the top left-hand corner, I was hosting one of Flo's events around, I think it was around cybersecurity. Again, you're looking at maybe the media side of how technology might integrate with people. Now, right now, we need more people to understand how to use technology and how to use these different science pieces, right? And that means media and communications is going to be extremely important. You need somebody who can break it down so that the average, everyday person understands and will agree with it. So maybe you want to go into the media side of STEM, but just showing you that there are different areas. In the bottom left-hand corner is Fundu, and that's some work that I do with UNICEF right now. Basically, it's a chatbot on WhatsApp that we'll be launching later on this year, and it will teach young people how to use, it will develop skills in young people like, job readiness. So it might show you how to write a CV. It might say how to prepare for an interview. Might do some specialty ones with big ambassadors. But it's really interesting and cool. And I thought to myself, again, this is technology coming out in a different area, a different way. And so it can be applied in so many different ways that you may not think. But that's something that my degree would have also allowed me to be prepared for. And in the top right-hand corner, I have Transform Health, which is the main body of work that I do right now. So I handle their impact and partnership side. Impact meaning it's all about monitoring and evaluation. So how do we know that the organization is doing well? How do we know that it's meeting its goals? And again, that's another area that will come in right there. So I just wanted to highlight, studying STEM teaches us many different skills that can be applied in so many different ways. This is also an example of if you're interested in writing and research, STEM can also be applied there. This is a paper I did last year in collaboration with the PMNCH and some other global organizations. It's all about strengthening adolescent agency for optimal health outcomes, meaning that if you have control over your own space, you're able to go to the clinic when you want to, etc., how all of that will improve and improve your access to healthcare. So if STEM has all these benefits, how can we get more young women to access it? That's the big question that we're really seeking to answer here. And there are a couple different components that I think a gender equal future will need in order to be successful. Now, the first one is going to be access to hardware and devices. So young people are going to need the tools that will allow them to access this realm of technology, right? For example, I have it on the next slide, but Jamaica's internet penetration rate is actually about somewhere between 50 and 60. So let's call it 55%. That means half the country can't access the internet independently, right? And that is something that will actually impact you on a day-to-day basis. If you're doing things like maybe you want to research something you learned in class or anything along those lines, right? So I think access to hardware and devices is going to be the #1 area for me. The second one I would say is mentorship. So one of the most pivotal, parts of my life, of my journey in STEM, was this woman IT mentorship program that I did in high school. I don't know if it's still there, but I'll speak to the coordinator and see if it is, because then I could share it with you. But we learned so many things from one, not only being a content consumer, meaning you scroll through TikTok and Instagram. I see some people smiling. Scroll through TikTok and Instagram every day, but also saying you need to put content out there. So you're not just a consumer within the space. You're also giving to the space, and that's very important. They also helped us with building our self-esteem and our confidence, because our young women need to be more self-confident on a day-to-day basis. That's where it all comes from, really. In addition to mentorship, digital literacy and infrastructure is going to be important. So, all right, you give a man a computer or you give a man a phone, and we address the first step about hardware and devices, right? The next step is going to be, can he use it efficiently to achieve whatever outcome there is? Can he use a cell phone? Do you know how to download a video and upload it to OneDrive or Google Drive, etc.? These are little skills that at first may seem small. When you go into an organization and you're hired as the new person to do whatever, if you don't know how to create a PowerPoint presentation and go up on stage and deliver it, that can really affect how easily or how well rather you're able to move up in the organization. There's some simple soft skills that are gonna come back to digital literacy that can really help our young people and our young women in this modern economy. And the last one I have is that we need culturally and regionally specific projects and content. Sometimes we're just taking things from the US or taking it from Europe, and it don't have no relevance to the Jamaican context, and we just pick it up and drop it right here. That's not enough. We need our own young scientists building projects and programs that are applicable to our context and take into account what we are going through. For example, on a UNICEF project, it utilizes WhatsApp or Facebook, etc. These are chat messages that persons could use. And I remember when we're doing some activation, some of the students are like, "But Miss, we don't have data. We're not able to access the WhatsApp or the Facebook because we don't have data." And so one of the solutions there was to also have an SMS-based portion. So persons could just text, and then Flow came in and zero-rated the platform, so it wouldn't charge you anything if you were to send text, right? So different ideas like that. It has to be locally specific to the context that we are in. Yeah. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, our internet penetration rate is about 55%. And that will then impact all the other issues I mentioned earlier, from access to devices, digital literacy, etc., etc. And that digital equity gap, so they call it, being a fancy word, but digital equity meaning how people are able to access digital spaces. So that includes the internet, that includes the hardware and devices, and the literacy, of course. What we're seeing now, especially given COVID-19, is that any gap that you have in access to digital spaces will also affect your access to health, to work, to almost every other facet of your life, right? So for example, to make that practical, during COVID, when we went online, a lot of students weren't able to access it. I remember working on a help desk at the time, and so I was helping students across Jamaica. I was teaching some teachers in Bahamas as well how to utilize the online spaces. And the first thing we noted was some households maybe didn't have an email address, or maybe there's one email address for everybody, and they have maybe 5 children in the house, and so each of them is trying to access the space but can't because it's only one email address. So different things like that that we take for granted, and we definitely need to implement as we're going forward. And this is a diagram I have here. It's going to be quite small, but overall showing how digital literacy and access to devices will affect those different areas of our life. So health is there, ability to access like the economy is there as well. So let's say you need a credit card, or to know how to use a credit card to buy things online, etc. It will affect rather all these different areas: education, healthcare, participation in the economy, etc. So moving forward, I've mentioned some areas that we need to work on earlier, but I'll also include some more here again. Again, I have the affordable and quality devices and hardware. Public education and digital literacy is extremely important. Investment in digital infrastructure, so that means we need more wires running the internet to our rural areas, things like that. We also need political support, right? Because you can't do everything you want to without the government being involved and having that as a priority. and we have affordable internet and cell service providers with electricity access, etc. So a variety of different areas that can really help young women as we move forward. But overall, I think the first step is that we need more young girls to believe in themselves. And again, that might sound very simplistic. But I think the number one issue affecting young people overall is that we don't believe in ourselves. Self-esteem is low, self-confidence is low. And that is expected because you're in that area where you're trying to figure out yourself. You're trying to figure out, what do I want to do in the future? Who do I want to be? How am I supposed to prepare myself for the future? It feels like so many decisions are just up in the air, and you wonder what is the best next step, and how do I make that next best step and not make any, mistakes or errors. But ultimately, you have to trust the journey, because you can never predict the future. I remember when I was in high school, I was always wondering and saying to myself, who will I become in 5 years? I don't know. Who will I become in 10 years? Will I get the dream job that I want? Will I change industries? I just don't know. But at the end of the day, you will never know what the future does. All you can control is what you do today, and what friends you keep, who you stay around, what ideologies you choose to believe, who you listen to, who you take advice from, who your mentors may be. Those are things that are within your control and you can work on today. How you show up at school, because I'll also add that some of your best mentors can be your teachers. Sometimes your teachers have connections that you wouldn't even know until you talk to them one-on-one and get some opportunities there, or even just learn from them on their journey. So that's something I think we need to work on. We need more young girls to believe in themselves. And mentorship can help with this as well. If I were to design a program, I think I would start with maybe 6th formers or 5th formers and doing some form of mentorship there for young women who are interested in science and technology, and then transition that into a scholarship or university, and then access to job opportunities at that point. I think those 3 things need to come together: mentorship, funding, and then access to jobs. Once those 3 things are fulfilled, I think we would have more young women in technology. And also to say, creating those nurturing environments as much as we can. So that's something you can even do as a young person, ensuring that you uplift other persons. When your friend comes to you and says she wants to be a pediatrician, or she wants to be a pilot, or she wants to be a surgeon or a midwife. When your friends come to you and tell you of their dreams, like, don't shoot them down. Say, all right, sis, how can I help you? How can I help you on that journey? Because at the end of the day, your network is going to be so important. They always say your network is your net worth, right? The people you keep around you is going to be incredibly important. I have many friends who will send me an opportunity that they see, and I'm not able to see it myself because maybe I'm not in the spaces that they're in. But the fact that they're out there and might see it, they'll say, oh, I know Danielle is interested in this, so I'll send it to her. So I think that idea of creating a nurturing environment as much as you can is incredibly important. But we also still have to keep in mind, and maybe not every environment that we have will be ideal, right? So for me in 6th form, as in my computer science class, and my teacher decided he was going to prepare us for the real world, he would say. And so each class he would say, girls can't code. Girls can't do anything in computing. And that was his way of thinking, that he's preparing us for the future, right? And I didn't like that. And so I made it my mission. For every single program that I would code, the first thing that will flash on screen is girls can code. I'd make it big and bright. Every password and username that he had to enter to access my programs, the username is girls and the password is can code. Every ending screen for every program I created would again flash girls can code. And so each time he would access my projects or my programs, he had to enter this. And that was my way of, being my little resistance or defying what was being said. I think that is something that we also have to keep in mind. And so even if the space is male-dominated, who cares? You're still going to put your best foot forward. Don't allow that to restrict you from going into any field that you're interested in. It doesn't matter if it's male-dominated. Maybe you will be the one that is going to send the ladder back down and bring many more women and girls into the field that you're interested in. So personally for me, I don't mind it right now. And that also has come from being exposed to a lot of the international space where I'm not only the only woman in the event or the space, I'm also the only black person, the only person from the Caribbean, the only person under 25 years old, the only person, etc., etc. There's so many different variables that can be applied to you. But what we need to do is see what opportunities present themselves in these variables that we may, attribute ourselves to. So, okay, I'm the only person from the Caribbean. That means I have a very unique perspective to share in this space. All right? I'm the only black person here. That means I can, again, bring a very unique perspective that they would not have heard before, and that's my opportunity to shine. Okay, I'm the only woman here. Firstly, I'm happy to be here and represent, the rest of the women from my space. And also, I'm going to loudly and proudly share what my experience is because it's no less than anybody else's here. So again, many different names or so on maybe, given to you. It might be the youth, it might be the woman, it might be the Caribbean, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You are going to find the opportunities that present themselves because of who you are. Stop seeing them as a limitation. They are an opportunity for you. All right. And lastly, I'll put here, this is me with the short here, but don't give up on the journey. That's the idea I wanted to give here. Sometimes you will be quite disappointed. Sometimes you may feel sad or down, and that's okay because the way life is that it's an up and down, and that's completely fine. So for me, even when I applied for different universities, my dream was to go to university abroad at first when I was leaving high school. And so for me, that was my dream. I applied to 11 universities, and all 11 rejected me. I remember saying to myself, you know what? Maybe the final one will be the one that accepts me, and that will be it. So as the rejections came, and I said, all right, the next one. All right, the next one. The next. And when I got the final one, it broke me for a while, to be honest with you. I said to myself, I thought I did everything correctly. Why am I here? And it took me maybe 2 years to really build back my self-confidence and self-esteem from that. Applied to the University of the West Indies, got in. And I had to change my mindset to say, you know what? I'm going to bloom where I'm planted. If this is where God wants me, I don't think there's any stronger indication than 11 people are saying, back up. I don't think there's any stronger indication. So I said, you know what? Maybe this is where God wants me. And I remember a friend coming to me as well and saying, should I have a dream? Well, we Jamaicans are dreaming. We always have a dream, right? But she said to me, Daniel, this is where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be here at the University of the West Indies, and this is where you're supposed to make your mark. And so I said, all right. I did it. I went through the 3 years. My goal was to be valedictorian. I set that from first year. I remember seeing Miss Kitty on a valedictorian sign, and I said, Mommy, I want to do that. I want to be the valedictorian. Other things found me along the way. Guild president, starting a TV show on TVJ, etc. that I didn't expect to be in. But nonetheless, I was open to opportunities and how I would grow. My ability to speak and learning and growing in that is actually probably the biggest enabler of my tech career, because I was now speaking at events from the UN General Assembly side events, to the World Health Summit I spoke a couple months ago. Some crazy spaces that I never expected to see myself in. And I remember just having to even talk to my younger self almost and saying, you're doing it. You're doing the dreams that you had. And you're doing it right here in Jamaica, right here at the University of the West Indies as you study your STEM degree. And so it's all about opening yourself to these ideas. So I did the time, I got selected as valedictorian, I did the guild president work, which was also interesting because people are like, I first ran for Faculty of Science and Technology rep in first year. And so I remember the guys saying, oh, where'd that girl come from? That was the first thing they were asking, where she come from and why she feel like she can run for Faculty of Science and Technology rep. But I decided, you know what, I band together with my first year friends and I said, guys, we're going to win this. Let's see how we can do it. And I brought everybody's different skills together. I have one friend who's good at marketing, one who can make dub poems, one who can do this, one who can do that, one who makes flyers. All put together, and that's one of the best campaigns that they had ever seen. And it was a group of first years together saying, this is what we think it should look like. So never underestimate the power and potential you have around you and in the space and year that you are in. So we did that. I won. And we started doing a bunch of different projects. COVID came, so everything was online. And I said, you know what? Online space is my dojo. We're going to bring it to them in this online space. And so we did a virtual club expo. And what was interesting is because we were science students, we were kind of already used to the online space and figuring out how to do that, right? And so the other faculties couldn't keep up. Because this is our dojo, this is what we're used to. We're tech students, we're science students all mixed together, some actuarial science students as well. We could figure out on the fly what is the best thing to do and how do we curate it based off what the students want. So you do your surveys, find out what they want, and build the requisite thing based off that. And so we were shining like crazy. So now people started saying, all right, you look like a president, you know. Run for guild president. And so now I was a second-year student running to be guild president. Normally third-year students will run for that while they're in their masters and do it. But I said, all right, the people are saying it is possible. So I didn't have any interest in being that. I told you guys valedictorian was my goal. And being guild president took a lot of time out of academic work as well. But I said, all right, I'm going to do it. And so we're running. Again, what I did now was bring different students together from different faculties. So I had a friend in MedSci who was really good at doing graphic work. I found a friend in FST who was good at building songs. That's him thinking, we all know somebody who love build song and build tune, right? Find him. I found somebody who was good at dance. And we put a video together mixing all of these different talents together. We did a couple different videos as well. I found a friend at UTech who was good at photography and videography. So I go over UTech and shoot the videos, and I try to avoid any logos or so on, because we don't want to show say UTech, right? Because I'm running for a UA position, right? But nonetheless, we made it work. And we brought these different talents and skill sets together, which I think is just beautiful to see. I had a student in humanities that did the logo for the campaign, and so literally, it was like a campus-wide, all different faculties are contributing to this campaign. So nonetheless, I think it's very important to just find what those skills that your friends have around you and look at what you guys can build together, because we're so much stronger when we work together and really are in tune with what each person's talents and skill sets are. No man is an island. You can't build alone. So we did that, ran for guild president, and now the challenge I was having is how do I manage my time? Because being guild president, you're in a bunch of meetings, like you're in meeting from morning until night. Literally. That meeting will start at 9 o'clock and at 6 p.m. and I'm not start wrap up yet. Literally. So it took a lot of time, a lot of balancing, but that was ultimately something that we're able to do. Nonetheless, academics is always the most important thing. Even if you're in other extracurriculars, you're a student before you're a student leader, or before you are anything else in any other club president, etc. And so it's always important to have that academic base that you work from. And so I made sure my academics were a priority. I took breaks when I needed to. Sometimes when it's stressed out completely, that's natural, that's gonna come. But we kept working and keeping at it. I had friends who would also help me. Maybe they'll take notes in class and share with me afterwards if I have to skip the class. But we kept it going, right? And so I was able to be selected as valedictorian after that because all my extracurricular contributions were so large and I met the academic requirement that I was able to be selected there. So many different things will come across, many different distractions will come up. But as a woman in STEM, there's so much that you can do because you are a woman in STEM, because you are from the Caribbean, because you might be the only black person in the room. It doesn't matter. All of these things are opportunities for us to shine and keep going. And so, remember I told you, coming into high school, I applied for all those universities and all 11 reject me? Yeah? Now I was able to apply for one university this year for my master's. I got accepted. And that is the Oxford University in London. So, the top university in the world almost. But I share that with you to say that sometimes you might get some big rejections at first that really cause you to reevaluate where you are and what you want. But you have to stick through it, find the opportunities within the environment that you're currently in, and keep shining, keep building, network with the people around you, and eventually, where you're supposed to be will find you, and you will be in alignment. All right, so thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure speaking with you. And I look forward to networking with you guys afterwards. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Miss Mullings. Let's hear it again for Miss Mullings. Real trailblazer, real trendsetter, bringing things to life that people didn't think were possible before. So thank you very much for that. Very inspiring. And at this point in time, I'm going to invite the Executive Director of the Scientific Research Council to do a special presentation to Miss Mullings. Dr. Watson?
No disrespect to the panelists, but I think I am full and I can go home. That was an amazing presentation, sharing your journey with us. I am inspired. You're never too old to be inspired, no? And inspiration can come from anywhere. And today you inspired me a lot more than I thought I was inspired already. And I am speaking on behalf of the audience here. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, sharing your time, and giving us a glimpse into your journey thus far. And I'm sure some of us will take the lessons that you learned and share with us to get us to go, to enjoy the journey while we're on it. And again, thank you so much. To remind you of the time spent here with us and to remember the impact you'll have on all the lives that you touched this morning. Thank you.
So much.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Watson. And thanks again, Miss Mullings. Thank you so much again, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. And at this point in time, we're going to move right into our panel discussion. So let me go now to just asking each of our panelists to just give us a brief introduction of themselves. Just tell us who you are, what your work is, and how you really contribute to women's advancement and progression in science and technology. So I'm going to start with Miss Carrie Ann.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ann Walker, and I am a musician and a creative technologist. And essentially, I bring together the creative arts with business development and technology, and really use technology to provide, processes and solutions, digital solutions for creative outlets, essentially, to facilitate creativity.
All right. Thank you very much, Carrie Ann. Moving now right ahead to Miss Prudence Hall.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm Prudence Hall. I am an altruist and an alms giver first. I'm also a STEMinist. I work in the area of translational medicine. And for those who do not know what translational medicine is, it's bridging the gap between research and medicine, as it is to find out, to diagnose disease, to find cures for diseases. So it's basically from the bench top to the bedside. And I'm delighted to be with you here today to just share with you on how us as females can move forward in STEM as we approach gender equality or equity, for want of a better term.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Miss Prudence. All right. So moving right along now to Miss Chantal.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I know we're kind of hungry, but let's try again. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. As said by our moderator, I am Chantal Golden-Wiles. I actually in STEM under two umbrellas. So my day job is as a research scientist at the Scientific Research Council, where I primarily focus on using everyday in short, when your granny said drink this bush because it's good for something, yes, I help to find out why the bush tea is actually good for something. And I also help in formulating skincare, hair care, all sorts of care products. So when you come and you say, I have this bush and I want to put it in this shampoo because when my granny boil it and put it in my shampoo, it make my hair grow long. Yes, I make the nice standard product for you to go and become entrepreneurs in science just the same. And kind of happy that Daniel spoke about it as well. I actually also function as a sort of project coordinator for IT project, which is known as a Scrum Master, which in short, when she referenced the project management in science, Scrum Master is a type of project coordinator. So you have different capacities that you can act as a project coordinator for, and Scrum Master is just one of them. And I do that as well, which means I get a little team, and the little team have a project to do, and that little annoying person in the team will be like, did you do it? Why didn't you do it? You need to do it. You're going to love doing it. I'm happy you got it done. So those are capacities that I work in.
Thank you very much, Chantal. And now moving on to Miss Tora.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So I'm Miss Tora Simpson. I am a Mandevillian, so I'm from Mandeville. I'm also an engineer. I would say a multidiscipline engineer. My background is in aerospace engineering. I did my bachelor's in that. And that's basically discussing or having to do with aircraft, spacecraft, and anything that's on them, like all the components inside. So that's what aerospace engineering entails. And then my master's is in mechanical engineering. And when I was doing my mechanical engineering degree, we weren't dealing with so much of the heavy, big parts that you think about when you think about mechanical engineering. But it was much more so electromechanical. So I'm a lover of robots, a lover of programming, because that's what I did for my master's, sending signals, receiving signals, and just creating these amazing systems. So with that background, I've worked in various industries. I've worked in the aerospace industry. I've worked in the hospitality maintenance industry, maintenance management. And a lot of people don't really know about that aspect of hospitality because, we come to the hotels with a nice outlay and, the people at the front. But there are maintenance systems that make everything run smoothly and that kind of thing. So I was involved with that here in Jamaica with Sandals Resorts. And of course, they have resorts all across the country and throughout the Caribbean. So that was a really good experience. And from there, for the past 5 years, I have been in academia. And it's so full circle because I went to university abroad. And I always said, I'm going to come home, I'm going to go back to the Caribbean. That's where I'm going to be. And I want to make impact there. And so here I'm at NTU teaching engineering, a variety of engineering courses. I also help to manage and coordinate the engineering portion of, what's happening with the engineering program at NCU. So, just follow your dreams and don't give up, right? It might get hard. You might think you're going one direction and you end up going another way, but it all comes full circle. And I'll end off with one achievement that I am really proud of because I said my bachelor's is in aerospace engineering. So I had some interest in space and stars and all of that. So we have created the first and only space club in Jamaica. And that is to engage students to learn about space, be interested in space, and then let's talk about, hey, can we develop a space agency for Jamaica, for the Caribbean? And are there space careers for, Caribbean people, for Jamaicans? So, yeah, thank you.
All right, so we have quite an innovative panel here today. We have aerospace engineer, we have STEMinist, we have creative technologist, we have the person who makes sure that everybody do everything what them supposed to do, and if them never do it, you're going to find out why them never do it. All right, so we have a nice, diverse panel here this morning. So let me ask now, one of the first questions, the first question I want to ask is, what does being a woman mean for you in today's world? And I'm going to ask the STEMinist to answer that one first.
Okay, so first, we often think of women as nurturers, childbearers, mothers, and so on. But when I think of what it means to be a woman in today's society, I think of leadership, I think of equity, I think of creating space for other women, I think of equality, right? Those are the things that come to mind when I think of what it means to be a woman in today's society. I also think being a woman, we have moved away from tradition where women used to be in the household. So now we find that women are occupying jobs that weren't normally occupied by them. I think that is our rightful place. And being a woman is implicitly being anything that you want to be. And that is what it means to me.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Prudence. I want to ask any of our other panelists to just give me your thoughts on that at this point. I see Ms. Kerrian is ready.
For me, when I think about being a woman, even outside of career and the ability to do things and contribute to different spaces, I just think of my humanity first, and just what you contribute when a unique perspective. whenever you, because we think differently, like our brains literally function differently. And so whatever space it is you're in, within the STEM field or just generally, just as you live, your perspective is a unique one and an important one. So I think of owning your voice and contributing your humanity to that space for sure.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Karen and Prudence. I really appreciate the various perspectives here, because Prudence spoke about specifically the moving away from, well, not moving away from, but embracing other non-traditional roles as women. And then Karen also spoke about the fact that as women, we have a different perspective. So there needs to be a balance between the perspectives of men and women, and that is why there needs to be representation of both genders. So next question I want to ask now is, I'm going to give that one to Ms. Tora, since she's the main educator here today. So as an educator, what are the realities as it relates to the education and training of our girls to be future scientists and innovators?
Okay. All right. What are the realities? Well, reality is that there's not a lot of girls in the STEM fields. I teach engineering, and so I know there's, well, in my classes, I can tell you I have one or two girls in my engineering program per se. And it was like that when I was abroad. It was mostly men. I was the only black girl sometimes. So the reality is that we need to, I think like Mr. Mullins said, we need to bridge the gap in exposing the girls more to STEM fields, and in a fun, interesting way, that in a way that women think, because women think differently from men, and so engaging them in a way that the STEM fields will seem more interesting to them, and they'll want to go down the path, encouraging them, mentoring them, so that they'll stay on the path, because challenges will come, and they just need to know to be resilient.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tora. The point that she raised speaks to equity, because what equity really speaks to is meeting you where you are specifically. So there's equality and then there is equity. She spoke about bringing science and technology to girls and bringing it to them in the ways that they think. Because there are some things that will just grab a man, and there are some things that will just grab a woman. And we have to look at how is it that we are going to meet each other where we are. Because if it is that you just leave it as it is in terms of traditional approaches, you may find that there's no balance that is achieved. And how do we achieve the balance? We really need to look at meeting each other where we are. So we need to go a step beyond equality and also look at achieving equity. All right, so thank you very much for that, Ms. Dora. I really appreciate that particular part of it as well. And I want to ask a question for Ms. Chantal now. How did you get involved in the field of STEM?
To be honest, the writing was on the wall that I should not be involved in STEM. I was terrible at science. In high school, it was the worst set of subjects for me. I got this art subject just like that. Didn't have to study, got my A's. I flunked in science. Barely flunked physics, flunked chemistry, barely passed in biology. A teacher recognized, and it's interesting that you mentioned that it wasn't the case that I wasn't interested. It's just I learned science differently. And Miss Karen Binns, wherever you are, you're a blessed soul. I love you. She was the one who pulled me aside one day, and she was the one who would like say it to me. And I recognized I could say it, I just couldn't write it. And in she working with me and getting my grades up and fostering that natural interest that I had in a subject matter that I just could not write properly, she's the reason why I got involved in STEM. Because I'm naturally a curious person. I want to know why something isn't working, which is how I end up doing my first degree in pharmacology, which was basically studying drugs. I want to know why the drugs work. How is it when I take this pill, my head stops hurting me? is a natural curiosity. So kudos to her for recognizing that interest can be represented in different ways. Not everybody can write it well, not everybody can spell it well, not everybody can communicate it effectively. And taking time out of her, I know teachers get bombarded all the time, all the teachers who are here with your students, big up yourself, allowing your students the opportunity to learn about science in a different medium than you would probably do it on your day-to-day basis. So that's how I got involved in science officially, because I was curious. But if it wasn't for Miss Bean, I would have just probably dropped it and stayed with the art, because that came easy. But she really did help me to figure out how to pass my exam so I could stay with where my interest was, which was learning how drugs work.
Right. So I really appreciate that particular perspective as well. And big up to Miss Karen Binns, you say? Big up to Miss Karen Binns, all the teachers here today. On a big up on yourself. Round of applause for the teachers, please. Because again, the theme of equity is coming out. It is, as I said, it's really meeting people where they are, because as Chantal said, it's not something that she was passing readily, because we know how it goes in school. Certain methodologies are used. I can relate to that specifically. Certain methodologies are used, and sometimes these things will fly over certain students' heads and certain students get it. So we really need to look at how is it that we can make things more inclusive for everybody so that we can meet everybody where they are. All right. Now, which leads me to another question now. Should educators change the way they are educating the Jamaican females? For example, should they be eliminating the certain, what are thought of as male-dominated subjects, such as physics, information technology? I remember Danielle said her teacher said girls can't code, and she showed him. Chemistry and mathematics. So do we think that educators should change the way that they're educating the females, the Jamaican ladies, by eliminating what is thought of as the male-dominated subjects? Anybody want to give a hand at that one, Miss Dora?
All right, I'll just say that we don't have to eliminate the traditional way of doing things, but we can integrate new methods. So if you have girls in your class, I mean, just think about something that would inspire a girl, right? So don't just do it the regular way that we do it day to day in terms of machines and, you know, if it's, make them code something pink. Let them do it in a color that they like. Let them make the machine and then add their own creativity to it. So their characteristics come out and they'll be more interested and stuff like that. So.
I kind of sort of have a different perspective, so to speak, because we always hear girls not going to be interested in physics and girls not going to be interested in that. But I think Daniel alluded to it earlier. We start at the preschool level, or we start at the primary school level. And girls are actually, our brains are wired differently, as Karen said. But research has shown that girls are really interested in science. So I don't think we need to box things up, and that's where we go wrong a lot of times. Oh, pink belongs to girls and blues belongs to boys and stuff like that. So we need to move away completely from those type of arguments that are not really scientifically based. Girls are interested in STEM. They are. So yes, we can change the methodology, and that's where we talk about equity, as Yannick alluded to earlier. Because equality is just giving everybody the same resources. Boys and girls is the same resources, but we have to have a level of fairness in how we approach it. And also, I think I'm just observing, because I'm also in academia, and I also observe how STEM is taught in schools. And I think there needs to be a shift in how we teach it, because STEM can get boring, you know, as opposed to my friend here. I I was always interested in STEM, and the writing was on the wall for me to be in STEM. But it can get boring to sit and look at numbers every day, to work out equations and stuff like that. So we have to, you know, kind of sort of perk up how we do it, more outdoor activities, take them to the SRC for a field trip, you know, take them to the UE, stuff like that. So we have to change it in that sort of way.
And I guess my perspective is somewhere in the middle between both, because I didn't know that like women in STEM was rare, because like my mom taught IT and that kind of thing, so I was always around it. I was there when we were building up Campion's IT lab, and you know, so for me it was normal. This is when I get big, and I'm a big old age, I realize, oh, this not normal? Sorry. I thought it was normal. But one of the things that I noticed my mom doing, even as a little girl, 5, 6 years old, she would never start a class without doing a diagnostic. So all her students would get to know themselves and their learning styles, and she would learn their learning styles too. And she would tailor her lessons to that. I never know, so that never normal either. You know what I mean? So I think it's a little bit of both. We can have an integrative approach, and we can try new things, because the run-of-the-mill thing is not going to work with everybody. You know, as techie as I am, I grew up with the technology, and trust me, like if I put it on my thoughts, I have to put it on pen and paper, same way, and it have to be unruled paper, because I will create my own lines, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it's important to know who you are as students and be active in your learning, and as teachers to be active in our students' education, essentially.
All right, thank you very much. Clap, clap, wanna clap. Wanna clap. Some very good nuggets we're coming out with here today. All right, I want to hear from the teachers in the audience about that very same question, going along those lines. How do you think, or what approaches do you think we can take towards really getting more of our girls involved in science and technology? Have you found it to be challenging? And if so, what steps have you taken to overcome these challenges? So I think I see one teacher in the audience so far. Where are the others? Okay, so all right, so we have a few male teachers, so it's very good to hear from their perspective as well. Would you like to give a perspective on that? You can come up to the mic here. Yes, thank you very much. Give him a clap as he comes, please. Encouragement is always good. So just say your name and what school you're from, please.
Morning, everyone. I'm Mr. Johnson from York Castle High. And I believe with the science curriculum, there definitely needs to be a shift in how it is taught. And there also, I think, needs to be, if it is a case that all of these things are to be incorporated into the curriculum, then I feel as though the curriculum should be cut back a bit, so that we can spend more time in developing the passion in the students for the particular subject area, as opposed to trying to get everything in one term or whatever. So that's my input on that.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. All right, we have another teacher coming up as well. Thank you. Give her some encouragement as she comes. All right, Cedar Grove. I mean, where will she teach? Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I think at my school, in terms of participation of students in STEM subjects, we don't have like a disparity between males and females, because I can tell you that my class is mostly female, and I'm a chemistry teacher, right? But where I see the disparity is in terms of TD and building technology, electrical, auto mechanics. Those are the most male-dominated subjects. So I think that probably, like the keynote speaker said about introducing these things from the primary school, I think that would be a good move for us as Jamaicans to get students interested in other things that are male-dominated. So introduce everyone to auto mechanics, electrical. At my school, everyone does TD, but you find that when you move to higher grades, like grade 10, grade 11, most of the males participate in that, and because those males want to become engineers. So when you look at the engineering class, you have like 1 or 2 females in that class. So I think that if we expose the girls to male-dominated areas from in the primary school or maybe even grade 7, so they have an idea what it entails, they can also develop a passion for it instead of just thinking about, like being a doctor that is a little bit more feminine. Even to become a scientist, even that too, we need to expose the students more to, because you find that they are not necessarily moving toward being a scientist, a chemist, a physicist, or a biologist. They want to be like doctors, right? Which is, I would say, it's a good field, but it's not what we really want from our students to be diverse, especially our females. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Miss. She didn't say her name, but I know she's from Cedar Grove. Yes. Prudence, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one last thing. I don't know how many of us were listening to the budget debate yesterday when Minister Nigel spoke. Did we listen? We must listen to the budget debate, especially the teachers. As a part of the Reformation, I don't remember the exact amount, but billions were allocated to the University of Technology and to the Micah University College to prepare teachers to teach STEM, and also to UTech to develop a STEM innovation center, because we know that is the University of Technology. And I thought to myself, that is good, it's commendable, but again, we are starting late. Like, I work mostly with children in the health field, and I believe in starting at the beginning. So what we can do, we are sitting here, we are scientists, we are STEMinists, we are researchers, we are teachers. What we can do is that we can do the work, we can present the data, say this is what is happening, and try to help to drive policy and to inform policy so that things will change, so that the government thinks about people at the primary school level, at the early childhood educational level. So that's what I wanted to add, because probably waiting until somebody's in the fifth form or sixth form, it's a little bit too late, The horse gone outside of the gate. So we need to look at what we can do, single-handedly, and what we can do by collaborative effort as women to present these data to say, this is what is happening, this is what we need to do this, or else we're going to end up in this condition.
All right, thank you very much for that addition, Prudence. And Dr. Watson has something to add.
So on both your last comment and the question that led to the conversation. So I spent 5 years at Tivoli Gardens High teaching chemistry. And before I went there, they had, at least the first 6 or 10 years before I got there, 0 passes in CXC chemistry. And within the first year of me being there, I went there while I was doing my master's at UA. And within the first year, from a class of 12, 10 did chemistry, and 9 out of the 10 passed. And in the 5 years, it continued like that. And the reason being is because I was coming from, I didn't have teaching experience. And teaching is a skill, teaching is a craft. So don't kid yourself that you being a practitioner mean you can teach. Likewise, don't think that because you are a teacher, you have the details of the practitioner, you can translate and relate to the students. So there need to be a twinning of it. Whether it be the teacher presenting the curriculum and partnering with our STEM ambassadors, that is why we have the program, so that you can get that practical experience to answer those in-depth technical questions that the theory will not expose the students to, that will not excite them, that they won't see it. They won't understand concentration and moles until they literally seeing it in action and literally making something and say what concentration mean in the literal sense. So I was able to bring that, and that is what led to the students being able to understand. It was not from my own doing, because I really couldn't teach. It's just that I was able to relate my experience and tell a story good. The SRC is the premier scientific institution, public body, that has a mandate for popularization of science and technology. And within that popularization initiative, science education take a significant presence. And we have the Science and Technology Education Unit, which conceptualized this very series. And we work in the basic school, primary school, science competitions. It's a team that is active. And this is a part of exposing our youth to science and technology so that it's not when them get to university, they might discover, say, oh, scientists mean 100 and different one things. Oh, chemistry don't just mean chemistry. It means that they have physical chemistry, organic chemistry, all these different things. Because I never knew what chemistry meant until I got to university, to be honest. So we're doing it, but it's not enough. And which is why we're very happy to be here in Mandeville, because a lot of our activities are in Kingston. And Jamaica bigger than Kingston and St. Andrew, right? So some work is happening. The SRC understands our role in exposing our youth from the very early stage. I also will speak on behalf of the Ministry of Science, Education and Technology, Science, Energy and Technology, rather, that with the new science and technology policy that came to be in 2022, a heavy focus and emphasis is on early childhood. So changes in how we present science and technology to our populace is coming, and we hope to see the results of that, where we become a technology-enabled society and have a culture of innovation entrenching us from we're babies to old people. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much for that contribution, Dr. Watson. So we heard a lot of things there in terms of how we can really reach out to our girls in schools to really get them into the STEM subjects. So we learned about starting from early and really just exposing persons, everybody, to the various subject areas and not just broad brushing things and say, oh, pink is for girls and blue is for boys, but we really have to look at it in a more holistic and inclusive way. So I would like to ask this question now. So according to research, women by far have less superiority in terms of ranking in the workplace. Do you find that this is so in your opinion? And have you experienced any form of gender inequality? What motivated you to continue, and what advice can you give to young women today? So that's a long one, but I think we got the gist of it. Essentially, do you feel like things are more difficult for you as a woman working in STEM? And if you have faced any of these challenges, what have you done to overcome them, and what advice can you give? Anybody? I see Miss Tora nodding her head.
All right, I'll just chirp in a little bit. And I just want to address the pink color thing. It was just an example, right? It was just saying, you know, let's find creative ways to kind of engage the girls as well. All right, so I was going to put it out there. So the gender inequality, I mean, it is there, it's real. I think I've experienced it since high school because I've been in science and I went into engineering, so I've just experienced it all my life. And it's really up to you. You know, it's you as an individual. You have to know your purpose. You have to know your whys, like why am I doing this? So when the times get challenging and rough, then that's what you go back to. Your goals, you know, what do you want to bring into the world? You know, how do you want to change the world? And that's what you have to focus on, even when you have those tough times. And as women, when we get into the boys' club, as I like to call it, it's like when you go anywhere else. It's like you're proving yourself, right? And we maybe shouldn't have to prove ourselves, but you just have to let your work speak for itself. You know who you are. You know you have your degree. You know you have your knowledge in the sciences. Just go out there and do you. Your skills, the whole thing is that no one is going to be the same. Your skills are going to be different from the guys, and the guys' skills are going to be different from you. So you have, from yours, and so you have to just showcase what you can do and learn from them. Learn from them, pick up their skills too, and that makes you better. So I don't really focus on the gender inequality, I guess, because I've just kind of, I don't know if I've become numb to it or I've just kind of perverse through it. But it is there, it is a reality. And it would be nice if our men could also kind of be open to, open up the door of the boys club a little bit, engage it with the women and just be friendly, just say hi, what you're working on, how I can help you. If you see the person struggling, just engage. So yeah, that's how I feel about it.
All right, thank you much, Mr. Carry-on. You have something to add?
Yeah, just to follow on your point, as I intimated earlier, I grew up in a home with two STEMers. My dad's a mechanical engineer, and my mom taught IT. How I end up in music, right? But so I grew up with a sort of left brain, right brain approach to the world, and my dad in particular. I was sharing this story with Daniel earlier, and I was saying, I remember when I was about 6, I'd come home with a report. Girl, get straight A's, mash up the thing, And, the comments at the side of your report where they have that yes-no checkbox, the last question go say is inclined to be easily led. And the principal go tick yes. My father said, I'm going to fail everything. Because he said, listen, never you be, question things. He said, even me, question things. Always be okay with changing your mind in the face of new information, and never be afraid to stand alone. And so when I enter a lot of rooms where you think, oh, you are the minority, so to speak, whether it's because you're a woman or a black woman in particular, I have never seen myself through that lens, if that makes sense. No, yes, as a woman, I contribute something differently to the space, but I've never experienced it as like an affront in a way, because I know what I know, and I also know what I don't know. And I'm comfortable with saying, yeah, I can't do that. That's not me. You know what I mean? And so if you are competent and confident in that competence, I think you can stand in any room, even if you're standing alone.
Some very good nuggets we get in here, understanding your why, knowing why you are doing these things, not being easily led, knowing what you want and going really for it, yes. So these are some very good nuggets that we are getting here in terms of and just even being numb sometimes to what is going on around you. Just push through, hold on your head and do your work same way. All right, so I want to get our students involved in this a bit. Now, I'm going to dial back a bit to what was being discussed earlier in the sense of how do we really engage our girls in terms of STEM and teaching STEM. And I think it's Chantal who spoke about the teacher who you said that for science you weren't passing science, but then this teacher took you aside and sort of brought it out of you. So I want to know from our students, anybody have any similar experience like that? Because I know for me personally, I had that sort of experience as well in mathematics, because I am not a numbers person. I compute things in words actually. And usually when I would write down a lot of words, my teachers would get turned off because they don't like words, they liked numbers. So that was a challenge for me in terms of as Prudence spoke about translational knowledge, something like that, right, Prudence? Yes? So that was a real challenge for me, and it wasn't until I had this particular teacher who was an engineer, and he actually taught us, he used to call it principle before method. So instead of swatting off the formulas with all of the X and the numbers and things with no letters, no words, no nothing in there, that is how I really got to understand mathematics and got a greater appreciation for it, because I used to start solving things without the formula. Imagine that. So I want to ask our students now, the males and the females in the room as well, I want to find out, how have you really moved beyond that? Have you experienced that in the sense that something is being taught, especially in STEM? Things are being taught and it's not really jumping out at you, but you are still curious, because that's what science is about, You're answering a question. So you're still curious about something, but you're not sure how to go about finding it out. But how do you get around that? How do your teachers help you to get around that? Any of the students, you can always use the mic over here.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So when I was in third form, I really had a challenge with physics. So to overcome the challenge that I had with physics, one thing about me, and most of my friends can tell you, every single day I went to my physics teacher with a question for years. And over time, I actually started to understand to the point where physics was my favorite subject. And I think that pushing hard was what made me love physics, and that is how I got a grade 1 in the CSEC level.
Very nice. Congratulations on that. Congratulations on that. So, all right. So, I have some questions here. I think these questions are really from the audience. So, one question here is asking, how do you maintain suitable grades when you're studying all the sciences? I remember Danielle spoke about time management and all of these things in her presentation. So I'm going to throw this one out to the panelists, and if Danielle wants to add to it as well, I'll invite her to add too. So Chantal, you're going to go ahead first?
Time management, and don't lie to yourself. If you know you're going to come home tired, don't make your schedule to say, when I come home, I'm going to study for 4 hours. You know you're tired. You know yourself. Make it practical. If you need to take a nap, it is okay to budget unwinding time in your time schedule. Even machines break down. So in making your time allocation for your subjects, you put your worst subjects at your best time. So if you're a morning person, put your worst subject to study in that pocket. If you know you are somebody who is easily distracted, do not say you're going to study with music. Turn it off. Find a corner to yourself. Yes, the literature says music helps, but it doesn't help you. And that's okay. Turn it off and go study somewhere. So don't copy somebody. Don't replicate what happens at school to be your guide. If you know like for me, when I'm studying, I have 4 textbooks on the same thing. And everything is color-coded. And I know I'm going to need my pink highlighter if I'm studying this today. I make sure I find the pink highlighter because I will waste time looking for that one highlighter. So learn about yourself and then make your schedule. That's the only way to find time to study everything because it is a lot.
All right, so know yourself and act accordingly. Prudence?
I concur. Time management is very, very vital in enabling you to maintain good grades. But also, our friend here from Bishop had said that, you know, she was having problems with physics and she went to her teacher. There is no such thing as a silly question. If you don't know, ask a question. And I think also I'm using this opportunity to encourage our teachers also to be approachable. Be approachable. Allow your students to be able to come to you with a problem. And also sometimes you may not know as a teacher, there are resources available. There are always going to be people who know more than you. Seek out those resources. As Tara said earlier, the SRC is available and so on. And also what is important also is finding a good mentor. We can find, as students, you can find mentors outside of school. I am a STEM ambassador for the SRC, but I also run a charity. I also have a foundation, and I help girls with their STEM subjects. So when you're finished, you can go to Miss Hilton, get my information. I'm always open to help people, and I do this free of cost because I see that a lot of the teaching that is being done is not on, as Yannick aforementioned, on a first principles basis. So it leads to a lot of swatting, a lot of trying to get things from memory. And trust me, science is not the field for that. If you do not understand the basics, you are not going to make it. And sad to say, So that is my addition. I must be honest. When I say not to gloat or anything, I don't study. I didn't study. I'm not a studying type of person. Even when I was in the university, I said I'd love my time, but I always got my A. No, I'm being very honest. But if you find that you are not that type of person, dedicate your time to study, because sciences can be difficult. They really can be difficult, and it's not a good thing for us to sit here and act like, you know, the sciences are easy or what have you, but you can do it as a girl, you can do it as a woman. If a man can be an aeronautical engineer, why she can't be an aeronautical engineer? So it is good to find a mentor, somebody who understands the subject area and is able rather to break it down to on a first principle basis, so that you understand, because understanding is the first step. Don't swat, please don't swat.
Can we get a round of applause for what Prudence just said just now? Honestly, when she was talking, I felt like I was in church, particularly when she was talking about the fact that if you not understand, it no make no sense. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we've had a very robust and very exciting set of discussion series here today. And I must big up all of our panelists who joined us today, Miss Tora, Miss Chantal, Miss Prudence, Miss Carrie-Ann. Big up on yourself. Big up also to Miss Danielle, who was our guest speaker today. We really appreciate all of what was discussed today. So let's have a round of applause for this set of presentations thus far. We have some special presentations for our panelists today, because they did a really good job of inspiring us and just causing us to press on with our work and what it is that we're doing. So I'm going to invite Dr. Shara Watson, our Executive Director of the SRC, to make the presentation.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights on how we can have more girls participating in aeronautics engineering, that field.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Carrie-Ann, thank you for sharing your experience and for sharing the impact that the household that you came from had on you and your journey in becoming a STEM entrepreneur, a media practitioner, and all the beautiful and wonderful things that you are. We also loved your perspective on the questions that were asked. I learned a lot from you throughout the presentation, and this is something to remember your time here with us by.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Chantal, it's always a pleasure hearing you speak. You know, I love your voice.
Thank you.
And how dynamic you are. Thank you for being here, Chantal, and adding a lot of value to the panel.
Thank you.
And to see you continue growing in your role as a scientist and to impact Jamaica as you have at the SRC.
Thank you. All right, so of course, I want you to give a round of applause for our capable moderator. We want to say a big thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Miss Yannick Rogers, right. And of course, you can see she's also from the Scientific Research Council, so we have that diverse skill set there. We're not only scientists, educators, we're what, media strategists, communication persons, everything. Yes, also a scientist. Ah, good. So thank you so much, Miss Rogers. I'm going to invite the Information Services Division Manager, Mr. Elijah Grieve, to come up and give the vote of thanks, and then we're going to move into refreshments, and then of course the exhibits are upstairs.
Happy International Women's Day again, everyone, and we're definitely cracking the code today. And with Ms. Mullins' great conversation, I'm sure everyone is keeping on their journey of what they want to become. But for today, we're at the 7th series of the Conversation in Science, and there are so many persons I want to thank to making this possible. The Executive Director, Ms. Dr. Shara Watson. I want to thank Ms. Mullins with a great presentation. Thank Ms. Tora Simpson, NCU engineer. Miss Kerry Ann Walker. Social impact entrepreneur, founder of Techie. Miss Prudence All, researcher at UWI. You think you're doing a great job in that area as well. Also, Miss Chantal Golden Wiles, another panelist. Thank you as well as STEM ambassador. And also, what can we be here without the student? They're the most important. Schools such as Cedar Grove, and all the great schools which are here today who make this a very successful series. I want to thank you very much. And guys, there's a lot of food here. Enjoy the displays as well, and have a great one. Thank you. Oh, Yannick, you did a great job. Thank you very much.
Natural beauty. Tell, no, I've never been someone shy until I seen your eyes. Still I had to try, yeah. Oh yes, let me get my words right and then approach you. Woman, I'll treat you like a man is supposed to. You'll never have to cry, no. I know everyone can relate to when they find a special someone. And she's royal, yeah, so royal.